Greetings YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another video, and this is a rather unflattering angle, but I don't care. I never want to do reviews as part of the short of the vlog series, and I don't intend to make this a regular feature at all, but I want to talk about Star Wars, the RPGs. Now, I played Star Wars the RPG back in the D6 days when West End Games had the license, and I quite enjoyed it. Now, I'll admit that the basic core rulebook as it stands by itself was not that good. Not that good at all. And you need a couple of books to make it work properly for a long-term balanced campaign. But for a dice pool game, it wasn't too bad. I quite enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. Played it with my friends. Had a great time. Then I lost the license and went over to Star Wars went over to D20 and Wizard of the Coast, which were milking this cash cow for what it was worth. And the industry back in the early 2000s kind of lost its mind with D20 and the open game license. They kind of went a bit mental. I mean, there was some really good stuff that came out of it. Some companies that grew out of nowhere because of it, and that's a good thing, I suppose. And it did make it so that entrepreneuring people could sum up, you know, the stones to actually write something, because back before open game licenses, if you wrote anything that wasn't one of the big systems, you could expect almost no sales at all. So having it in D20, which made it compatible with most things that most people already owned already, was not a bad idea. However, as you all know, I'm not going to list products. There was a lot of crap that came out of D20, and then there was the slavishly adapting existing properties to D20. We all saw the Warhammer 40,000 D20 like fan project online, and the World of Darkness D20. Actually, no, that was actually a thing as well. Oh god, that was a thing. Deadlands D20, Call of Cthulhu D20. Was there a Paranoid version of D20? Either way, it all properly sucked. Star Wars, doubly so. Because, granted, it leads to the old joke of I'm a level 15 Jedi, which doesn't work. But it basically turns the way it plays and the way it runs is exactly like Dungeons and Dragons. With basically Jedis or wizards and clerics all rolled into one lovely little bundle, and everything else is just a fighter to some degree or a ranger. And I've never seen it work properly long term, and I don't think I've ever seen a run a campaign that's lasted long term with it. With the exception of Star Wars Saga Edition, because last night we finished the Dawn of Defiance campaign, which is a free to download level 1 to level 20 campaign, because everyone was complaining there was nothing out for the Star Wars Saga Edition in terms of adventures, so some writers got together. I don't know if they were sponsored by Wizard of the Coast, or actually were Wizard of the Coast employees, but they wrote a big-ass level 1 to level 20 magnum opus, which was all about... It was a good story, because it was all about how the individual rebellions were amalgamated into the Rebellion Alliance, and how your player characters sparked that rebellion, and how you gave the Empire its first bloody nose, or series of bloody noses, by doing things, you know, blatantly in front of them and saying, haha, you can't catch us all. There's no way you can defend all your borders. There is no way you can go unopposed in the universe or the galaxy, whatever. It's a good story to tell. It's really fun story to tell. But the further down the quest you got, the higher levels you got, the more unbalanced it became, ridiculously so. Because I'm assuming it assumed that the entire group would be min-maxed to the tits. Because the last couple of adventures in it are so bloody hard. And it runs like D&D, it runs like Dungeons and Dragons, where you've got like 3 to 5 to 6, even 8 encounters per day, per adventuring day. And this is without healers. This is without... Well, Jedis can potentially heal, but, you know... if you do that, you turn Jedis into clerics. It's your second wind, which is one of the things that carried over to 4th edition. It just doesn't work. It feels like you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, but without the magic. And Saga Edition, doubly so, suffered from the fact that it was a testbed for a lot of the things that became 4th edition. Some of the things that worked about 4th edition were transplanted over to 4th edition. Some of the things that didn't work got scrapped, and they got scrapped hard. Things like base attack bonuses, to some degree, are gone. Oh, let me tell you why I don't like Saga Edition mathematically. mechanically. See if I can explain to you why it doesn't work. Right, everybody in the game has the 3 stats: Fortitude, Reflex, and Will, which are their saves, basically. Fortitude saves, Will saves, Reflex. And they're static numbers, they're target numbers you have to hit, rather than being a bonus you roll on. Okay, that's fair enough. And the target number of Reflex is your target number to be hit. Unless you're getting hit by a Jedi power, at which point it might be Fortitude, it might be Willpower. They're the things that carried over to 4th edition and worked quite well. But everybody's base saves went up by 1 every level. So if you were level 20 or level 15, you had 15 onto your flat 10 plus your bonuses. So assuming you had 10 all the way down your scores, you had no bonuses what to speak of, a level 15 character would have a Fortitude, a Reflex, and a Will save of 25. Because it's 10, which is the basic, plus your level. Okay. Now, because that means your target number to be hit is 25, you have to then go off base attack, which is the static number that your class gives you, which you add on top of your modifiers. And again, in this example, we're not using modifiers because it makes things more complicated. And I'm trying to think how to put this without being a dick. And you use the base attack bonuses plus your modifier to determine your attack bonus. So a soldier, which is effectively a fighter, gets +1 every level. So at level 15 he gets +15 to hit. Now against a target number 25, that means he rolls to roll 10 or more, which means he hits 55% of the time. Okay, so that's not too bad. That's fairly consistent, and that goes up every level. So every level, if fighting an equivalent version of himself, a soldier will hit 55% of the time. That's not bad. Okay. However, and then of course you can vary that by your stat modifiers, your armor maybe if you're wearing any, or your talents or your feats and things like that. However, most other classes, like Scout or Scoundrel or... is there a Noble? I can't remember if there's a Noble. I think there might be a Noble. Don't get the +1 base attack per level. So for them, at level 1, the base attack might be 0 or usually 0, which means they hit an equivalent version of themselves 50% of the time. Now, because they don't get a base attack increase every level, they will usually end on like level 20 at somewhere in the region of about 12 to 15 as their attack bonus, usually about 12 mark. And you suddenly realise as you're progressing through the game that it's not scaled properly. Because if you're not playing a soldier or a Jedi, which I think also has a +1 for every level, then you are getting to that point where it becomes harder and harder and harder to hit something of equivalent level. So a level 20 soldier with no stack modifiers whatsoever will hit itself 55% of the time. We've already discussed that. But a level 20 scout will hit himself like maybe about 15% of the time. Because it's skewed, because your target number would be 20 plus 10, which is 30. But your base attack is, what, 12? That's rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. So you're hitting yourself on... yeah, I think it's actually about 15-20% of the time you're hitting yourself. And that's just ridiculous. And everybody gets this. So if you're not playing a soldier, or you're not playing a Jedi, you're not playing one of the few classes that has a base attack bonus that progresses every level, when you get into fights, you can't do anything. And it gets worse the higher up levels you get, because you can't hit anything at all. And it's just so infuriating. And that was my biggest gripe with the game. That and the fact that D20 doesn't work for fricking anything. Cthulhu D20 sucked. Deadlands D20 sucked. World Dark D20 sucked. And I know there's going to be somebody out there that played it, somebody out there that bought it, and somebody out there that probably loves it. And you know what? You are the minority. I'm not saying you're a bad person, I'm not saying you're a horrible person, I'm not saying you have no taste. What I have to say, you have to admit the fact is that not many versions of it were printed, even fewer versions were purchased, even fewer versions past that were used. The industry might as well have not had them exist, because that's the impact they had. Rant over. I can't wait to see what Fantasy Flight do with the license. Thanks for your time, guys. Goodbye.